Hey friends, welcome. I'm so happy you're here with me tonight. In tonight's ASMR experience, we are going to do something very gentle and very peaceful. Together, we will quietly step back in time into the gilded world of Victorian America. This is a special journey, one where we won't focus on great events or famous people. Instead, we'll explore the hidden wonders that are often overlooked. We will walk through elegant homes, noticing the small, beautiful details. We will linger in the peaceful, forgotten corners of the past, just listening to the quiet. Before we fully step into the past, if you enjoy these calm explorations, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It truly helps our community grow. I also love to know where you are all watching from. Please, let me know in the comments what time it is on your side of the world as you settle in to relax. The world is quiet. The only sound is the steady, gentle ticking of a pocket watch on a wooden table each second. A soft, metallic click in the stillness of the room. It is the middle of the 19th century in America, a time of great change, a time when a new age was slowly, quietly beginning. The world was growing, and so were the towns and cities. Factories, with their tall chimneys and busy machines, were making more things than ever before. For some families, this meant a new kind of wealth, a new way of life that was very different from the simpler farm life of their parents and grandparents. This was the beginning of what we now call the Victorian era in America, a time of grand ideas, deep feelings, and a powerful dream of progress. Let's imagine ourselves in a quiet parlor of a new brick house in a growing city like Boston or Philadelphia around the year 1855. The room is filled with dark, heavy furniture made of mahogany or rosewood, its surface polished to a deep, glossy shine. The chairs and sofa are covered in rich, dark velvet, with curved legs and ornately carved backs. The windows are tall, but the bright afternoon sun is softened by thick lace curtains, and behind them, heavy drapes of dark velvet are ready to be drawn at night, shutting out the world completely. The light inside is calm and dim. On the walls, the wallpaper is covered in a pattern of climbing roses or intricate vines, and paintings of serious-looking ancestors in dark frames watch over the room in silence. Every surface seems to hold a collection of precious things. On a small, multi-layered table called a whatnot, there are seashells, porcelain figures of shepherds and shepherdesses, and perhaps a pressed flower under a glass dome. On the mantelpiece above the fireplace, a large, heavy clock ticks in time with the pocket watch, its hands slowly moving towards the evening. This room is a perfect picture of the new Victorian ideal. It is a sanctuary, a safe, and beautiful space created to be a haven from the busy, noisy, and often dirty world of the growing cities outside. The ticking of the clock is the sound of an ordered, predictable, and proper life. It is the sound of a world that believes in rules, in politeness, and in the importance of creating a perfect home. In this quiet, ordered world, the family was seen as the most important thing of all. The home was a kingdom, and each person had their special role. The father was the head of the household. He was the one who went out into the world of business and work, a world that was seen as competitive and difficult. His role was to be strong, to provide for his family, and to protect them from the harsh realities of the outside world. When he came home and stepped into his parlor, he was leaving that world behind and entering his peaceful kingdom. His wife, the mother of the family, was seen as the heart of the home, often called the angel in the house. Her role was to make the home a beautiful, comfortable, and morally good place. She was in charge of managing the servants, raising the children, and creating an atmosphere of peace and refinement. The things in the parlor were not just decorations. They were tools to help create this perfect family life. The large, heavy piano in the corner was not just an instrument. It was a sign of the family's wealth and culture. The daughters of the house would be expected to learn to play, their soft melodies filling the evenings with gentle, respectable entertainment. On a bookshelf, you would find volumes of poetry and novels, but they were carefully chosen. They were stories with strong moral lessons, tales of honor, duty, and true love. A young lady might sit in a velvet chair, her head bent over a piece of embroidery, her needle moving slowly and carefully. This quiet work was seen as a sign of her patience, her quiet nature, and her skill in the domestic arts. Every object, every activity was part of a larger idea that the home was a special place, a fortress of love and goodness that could protect the family from the troubles of the world. Outside the thick velvet curtains of these quiet homes, the country was humming with the idea of progress. It was a time of great excitement and invention. The feeling was that humanity was moving forward, that every year would be better than the last, and that science and hard work could solve any problem. Cities were growing at a remarkable speed. New streets were being laid out, and the soft, flickering glow of gaslights was beginning to replace the old oil lamps, making the city nights seem safer and more magical. The sound of horses' hooves on cobblestones was constant, as horse-drawn omnibuses carried people from one part of the city to another. The air was filled with the noise of construction as new homes, shops, and grand public buildings were being built of sturdy brick and stone. New inventions were changing daily life in ways that seemed almost miraculous. The sewing machine, which became popular in the 1850s, could stitch clothes faster than a dozen seamstresses working by hand. This meant that even families with less money could afford more clothing, and the fashion seen in popular magazines, with their intricate ruffles and pleats, became easier to copy. Even more amazing was the telegraph. A message that once would have taken days or weeks to travel by horse and rider could now be sent across the country in a matter of minutes. The strange, rhythmic clicking of the telegraph key was the sound of a new, connected world being born. For the people living in this time, it felt like anything was possible. They believed in the power of progress, in the importance of hard work, and in the idea that their nation was destined for greatness. It was a time of deep optimism, a belief that the future would be a story of constant improvement, a steady, peaceful march toward an even better and more refined world. But even in the quietest, most well-ordered parlor, a shadow was beginning to fall. A new sound started to join the gentle ticking of the clock. It was the soft, dry rustle of a newspaper, its pages filled with news that was growing more and more troubling. The conversations in the evening, once filled with talk of new books or local events, now turned to hushed, worried discussions about the growing differences between the northern and the southern states. The disagreements were deep and complicated, and they seemed to be getting worse, not better. The idea of a great nation moving forward together in peaceful progress was being challenged by a rising tide of anger and misunderstanding. The rustling paper told stories of fierce debates and broken compromises. The hopeful feeling of the 1850s began to fade as the decade came to a close and the 1860s began. The sense of a shared destiny was fracturing. The quiet, refined world that had been so carefully built, with its rules of politeness and its belief in moral goodness, seemed unprepared for the passionate, violent storm that was gathering on the horizon. The steady, comforting tick-tock of the pocket watch on the parlor table now seemed to be counting down, each second bringing the nation closer to a terrible conflict that would tear the country apart and test its belief in progress in a trial of fire and blood. The dawn of this new, Gilded Age was about to be interrupted by the darkest of storms, a civil war that would change America. For Eve, the quiet, ordered world of the 1850s, with its gentle belief in steady progress, could not last. The hushed, worried conversations in the parlor and the troubling stories read in the rustling newspapers were the first signs of a great storm gathering. In the year 1861, that storm finally broke. The nation, which had seen itself as one large, forward-moving family, was now a house divided, and the disagreement turned into the sad and terrible reality of the American Civil War. In the beginning, there was a strange kind of excitement. In towns and cities across the North, young men rushed to volunteer, eager to be soldiers. They were filled with a sense of patriotic duty, a belief that they were fighting for a great and noble cause. The common feeling was that the war would be over quickly, perhaps in just a few months. Ladies gathered in their parlors, not for quiet embroidery, but to sew great flags and banners for their new local regiments. The air was filled with parades, speeches, and patriotic songs. It was a time of high energy. and strong feeling, a time when the entire community came together with a single purpose. But the letters and newspaper reports that soon began to arrive from the front lines told a different, more somber story. The war was not a grand, quick adventure. It was a hard and brutal business. The first major battles brought with them lists of names, the names of the wounded, the missing, and the dead. The same newspapers that once spoke of progress and new inventions now carried columns of tiny print that brought shock and sorrow into quiet homes. We can imagine a family gathered around the fireplace in the evening, the father reading one of these lists aloud. The gentle ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece is the only other sound as he reads name after name. The excitement of the first few months begins to fade, replaced by a grim, quiet determination and a deep, gnawing anxiety for the sons, husbands, and brothers who were now far from home, facing dangers that were hard to even imagine. As the war stretched on, from one year into the next, life on the home front changed in many ways. The quiet, refined world of the Victorian home became a center for the war effort. The role of women, once centered on creating a peaceful haven, now expanded to include duties of immense national importance. All across the country, they formed soldiers' aid societies. We can picture them in the same parlors where they once practiced the piano or read poetry. Now, the room is filled with the quiet, rhythmic click-clack of knitting needles. They are not making delicate lace, but thick, sturdy woolen socks for the soldiers, whose boots were often thin and worn. Their hands are busy rolling bandages from old linen sheets, scraping lint to be used for dressing wounds, and packing boxes with small comforts to be sent to the camps. Their conversations are different now, too. The talk is not of social calls or the latest fashions from Paris. It is of news. From the front, they read letters aloud from their loved ones, sharing news, both good and bad. They worry about the lack of supplies, the spread of disease in the camps, and the terrible sounds and sights their men are experiencing. They find strength and comfort in working together, in sharing their fears and their hopes. The letters they write back are a lifeline, a connection to the world of peace and love that the soldiers have left behind. A woman might spend her evening by candlelight, her pen scratching across the paper, filling page after page with news from home. The growth of the children, the health of the neighbors, the success of the garden. She writes with a cheerfulness she may not feel, knowing that her words will be a source of comfort and a precious reminder of the life he is fighting to return to. The war brought with it hardship and sacrifice. In some places, goods that had once been common became scarce. The price of coffee and sugar rose, and families had to learn to use less. The silk for a new dress might instead be used to create a banner for a regiment. Life became simpler, more focused on what was truly important: family, community, and the hope for the war's end. The steady ticking of the clock, once a sound of serene order, now seemed to mark the slow, agonizing passage of time, each second an eternity for those waiting for news. The rustle of paper was now the most feared and most hoped-for sound in the house. It was the sound of the postman at the door, bringing a letter from the front. It was a moment of heart-stopping anxiety to see the familiar handwriting on the envelope brought a wave of immense relief. He was alive, at least when he wrote this. But there was always the fear of opening it, the dread of what news it might contain. Every family lived in this state of constant, quiet tension, their private lives now completely tied to the great, public struggle of the nation. After 4 long, weary years, the tide of the war began to turn. The news in the papers became more hopeful. The great, terrible battles seemed to be leading towards a final conclusion. And then, in the spring of 1865, the news that everyone had been praying for finally arrived. The war was over. The news traveled by telegraph, spreading from city to city with incredible speed. We can imagine the moment it reached a small town. A telegraph operator receives the message and runs out into the street, shouting the news. Suddenly, a church bell begins to ring, not with its slow, solemn toll for Sunday service, but with a wild, joyous, and relentless clanging. Another church bell joins in, and then another, until the entire town is filled with the glorious, deafening sound of peace. People stream out of their homes and shops, their faces filled with a mixture of disbelief, joy, and profound, exhausted relief. Strangers embrace in the streets. After years of quiet anxiety and private grief, there is a moment of shared, public celebration. But even in the joy, there is a deep and quiet sadness. The cost of the war was immense. Nearly every family had lost someone, a son, a father, a cousin, a friend. So the relief is tempered with grief, the joy intertwined with the painful memory of those who would not be coming home. The soldiers who do return are changed men. They have seen and experienced things that their families at home can never fully understand. The reunion is joyous, but it is also the beginning of a long, slow process of healing, both for the men and for the nation itself. The end of the war marks the beginning of a new chapter for America. The quiet, almost agricultural nation of the 1850s is gone forever. The war effort had caused factories in the North to grow at an incredible rate, producing everything from cannons and rifles to uniforms and preserved food. When the war ended, this immense industrial power was turned to other things. The returning soldiers did not all go back to the farm. Many sought work in the growing cities, which now began to expand at an even faster pace. The railroads that had been so vital for moving troops and supplies during the war now began to crisscross the country, connecting distant towns and carrying goods and people from east to west. The quiet world of the Victorian parlor, once a sanctuary from the outside world, now found the outside world more present than ever. The nation was entering a new age of energy, industry, and immense wealth, an era that would later be called the Gilded Age. The gentle, ticking pocket watch of the 1850s, a symbol of personal, domestic order, had become the sound of a new, faster, more powerful, and more complicated America, a nation forged and forever changed by its great and terrible trial. The great, terrible storm of the Civil War has passed, leaving behind a nation forever changed. As the country slowly begins to heal and rebuild, a new age of energy, industry, and wealth begins to rise. This is the Gilded Age, the high noon of the Victorian era in America. It is a time of incredible confidence, of grand ambitions, and of a desire to show the world and each other just how successful and refined this new America has become. And nowhere is this desire more beautifully, more elaborately expressed than in the homes they built. To understand this time, we must walk through its quiet, residential streets and step inside the magnificent houses that were the grand stages for Victorian life. Let us imagine ourselves on a quiet, tree-lined street in a prosperous town, sometime in the 1870s or 1880s. A gentle, soft rain is falling, a steady, hushed drumming on the leaves of the great elm trees and on the taut silk of the umbrella we hold above us. The rain darkens the slate roofs of the houses and makes the green of the lawns seem impossibly vivid. The air is cool and smells of wet earth and damp leaves. The street is a gallery of architectural dreams, each home a unique and powerful statement about the family that lives inside. Look at this first house on the corner. It seems to be reaching for the sky, its roof steep and sharply pointed, like a home trying to remember what it was like to be a church. The windows are tall and narrow, with pointed arches at the top, and the porch is decorated with intricate, lace-like patterns carved from wood. This is a Gothic Revival house, a style that looked back to the Middle Ages for its inspiration. It feels serious, romantic, and deeply moral, a solid, respectable home for a family of high standing. Next to it is a very different kind of home. It is wider, more stately, with a gently sloping roof that hangs far over the walls, supported by large, curving, carved wooden brackets. The windows are tall and rounded at the top. It feels grand and confident, like a fine villa that has been gently transported from the sunny hills of Italy. This Italianate style was incredibly popular, a perfect expression of the era's love for a kind of worldly, romantic beauty. As we continue our walk, another grand home comes into view, this one even more formal and imposing. It looks very French, very dignified. The most remarkable feature is its roof, which seems to have two parts on every side. The lower part is very steep, almost like a wall, and has beautiful, ornate windows set directly into it. This is the mansard roof, a clever design that created a full, airy, and livable top floor. This Second Empire style was often chosen for the homes of the very wealthiest families, for bankers and railroad tycoons. Its tall, formal appearance a clear and powerful symbol of their success and sophistication. But the house we will visit today is perhaps the most enchanting of all. It is a magnificent queen and home, and it is not a simple, symmetrical box. It is a wonderful and beautiful collection of different shapes and textures all brought together. There is a tall, round tower on one corner, topped with a cone-shaped roof like a wizard's hat. A wide, welcoming porch wraps around the front of the house, its wooden posts and railings decorated with intricate, turned spindles. The walls are a delightful mixture of materials: sturdy, warm red brick on the first floor and decorative, fish-scale wooden shingles on the second. The windows are large, some with beautiful stained glass panels at the top that catch the gray afternoon light and turn it into jewels of color. The whole house feels creative, optimistic, and full of personality. It is a home built not just for shelter, but for delight. We walk up the stone path, the gentle rain whispering around us, and step onto the covered porch. The great oak door, with its panel of etched glass, swings open before us. We step inside, and the world changes. The cool, damp air and the soft sound of the rain are left behind, replaced by the warm, quiet hush of the house. We are standing in a grand entrance hall. The first impression is one of dark, rich wood and warm, golden light. The floorboards beneath our feet give a soft, gentle creak, the sound of an old house settling, a sound of welcome. From a nearby room, we can hear the low, steady crackle of a fireplace, a promise of warmth and comfort. The air smells of beeswax, of old wood, and of the faint, clean scent of the rain on the clothes of the person who let us in. Our eyes are drawn to the magnificent staircase that sweeps up to the second floor. It is a masterpiece of the woodcarver's art. The great newel post at the bottom is a thick, heavy pillar of oak, its top carved into the shape of a pineapple, the universal symbol of a warm welcome. The banister is smooth and cool too. The touch and the spindles that support it are a forest of intricate, twisting, and turning shapes. The entire staircase feels less like a piece of construction and more like a great, wooden sculpture, a testament to the Victorian love of detailed, masterful craftsmanship. The walls of the hallway are covered in a thick, floral wallpaper. The background is a deep, forest green, and covering it is a dense, swirling pattern of climbing roses, lilies, and ivy. The paper absorbs the light, making the space feel intimate and enclosed, a world away from the brightness outside. Hanging from the center of the high ceiling is a magnificent brass gaslier, an early gaslight fixture. Its polished brass arms curve outwards like the branches of a tree, each one ending in an etched glass shade shaped like a flower. The gas jets inside burn with a soft, steady hiss, producing a warm, golden light that is much softer and more alive than the stark, steady light of a modern electric bulb. It flickers gently, making the shadows in the corners of the hall seem to dance. From the hallway, we move into the parlor, the heart of the home, the room where the family would receive its most important guests. Here, the feeling of rich, comfortable detail is even more intense. Heavy velvet curtains, the same deep green as the wallpaper, are drawn against the rain. The fire crackles merrily. The mantelpiece is a curated collection of the family's treasures: photographs of serious-looking relatives in silver frames, a pair of porcelain dogs, a delicate vase filled with dried flowers. And it is here, in the quiet of this room, that we can truly appreciate the small, personal objects that made up the fabric of Victorian life. We turn our attention to a small side table. A teacup and saucer have been left there, and beside it rests a single silver spoon. Let us look at it closely. It is heavier than you would expect. The solid weight of the silver is satisfying feeling. The handle is not plain, but is decorated with an intricate, raised pattern of tiny flowers and vines, a style known as repoussé. If you were to turn it over, you would see the small, stamped hallmark of the silversmith who made it, and perhaps a single, elegantly engraved letter, the initial of the family's surname. This is not just a tool for stirring tea. It is a small piece of heritable wealth, an object of beauty that would be passed down from one generation to the next, a tiny, gleaming symbol of the family's stability and permanence. On the arm of a velvet armchair, a pair of ladies' lace gloves has been left behind, as if just taken off. We look at them, a delicate web of fine, white thread. They are likely handmade, the work of countless hours, the lace forming a pattern as complex and beautiful as a snowflake. At the wrist, there are tiny, seed pearl buttons. To wear these gloves was to show that your hands were not for work. They were a symbol of leisure, of refinement, of a life where one's hands were only for shaking another's, for holding a teacup, or for turning the page of a book. They are impossibly fragile, a testament to a life lived in a gentle, protected world. On the mantelpiece, tucked beside a photograph, lies an ornamental hair comb. It is carved from the translucent, dappled shell of a sea turtle, its soft, amber and brown colors glowing warmly in the firelight. The teeth are long and slender, designed to hold an elaborate hairstyle in place, but the top is a wide, curving arc, perhaps inlaid with a delicate design of mother of pearl. It is another object that is both perfectly functional and exquisitely beautiful, a small, personal treasure from this quiet, elegant, and forgotten corner of the past. The house is quiet now. The morning's routines are complete, and a gentle, mid-morning stillness has settled over the grand rooms. This is the heart of the day for a Victorian lady, a time not for public duties, but for the quiet, personal, and highly structured rituals that define her world. Her life is a masterpiece of artifice and order, a carefully constructed performance of grace, piety, and domestic management. To understand her day is to understand the intricate, overlapping layers of her existence, from the hidden architecture of her clothing to the carefully chosen words of her correspondence. Our journey today follows this quiet rhythm, a whispered exploration of a single, ordinary day in a life of extraordinary discipline. The transformation begins, as it always does, in the private sanctuary of the bedchamber. The first act is the assembling of the day's armor. The lady's maid, her movements practiced and silent, has already laid out the necessary garments upon the bed, a soft landscape of white linen, cotton, and formidable whalebone. First come the innermost layers, the long cotton drawers trimmed with simple lace, and the chemise that will serve as the soft barrier between the skin and the powerful machinery of the corset. Silk stockings are gently rolled on and secured with garters. Then comes the corset itself. It is the central pillar of the entire structure. The lady stands, holding onto a bedpost, and the maid begins the familiar, soft struggle of lacing. The corset of this era is a marvel of engineering, designed to create an unnaturally small waist while pushing the hips back and the bust forward. With each steady pull of the laces, you can hear the faint creak of the whalebone stays and the soft sigh of the lady's breath being displaced. Her torso is molded, compressed, and locked into the fashionable silhouette, a rigid and unyielding foundation. Upon this foundation, the era's most distinctive feature is added, the bustle. It is a strange and wonderful contraption, a cage of light, flexible steel wires and fabric tapes, or sometimes a simple, firm cushion tied securely around the waist at the back. Its sole purpose is to support the immense weight and volume of the skirts that will be worn over it, creating the iconic silhouette of the age, with its flat front and dramatically protruding rear. It feels like strapping on a small, light piece of furniture. Over the bustle and corset come the petticoats. There are several, each one adding to the shape and the sound. A flannel one for warmth, then multiple layers of starched cotton, some with ruffles and flounces at the back that are specifically designed to drape over the bustle cage, enhancing its effect. With each added layer, the soft cloth sounds become richer, a gentle rustling that will be the constant accompaniment to her every movement. Finally, the gown itself. It is a two-piece creation of fine, dark blue wool, suitable for a day at home. The bodice is incredibly tight-fitting, its interior lined with more boning to ensure a perfectly smooth, wrinkle-free fit over the corset. The maid fastens the long row of tiny, fabric-covered buttons that run from the neck to the waist, a painstaking, minute-by-minute process. The skirt is a masterpiece of drapery. It is flat in the front, but at the back, a huge volume of fabric is gathered, pleated, swagged, and draped over the bustle structure, often ending in a decorative, pleated train that brushes the floor. The effect is one of immense, fashionable complexity. The lady is now fully dressed, a walking sculpture, her natural form completely reshaped into the era's ideal of feminine beauty. Before she leaves her chamber to begin her duties, she might pause for a moment of quiet reflection, not of her own thoughts, but of the thoughts of others. She might pick up a small, leather-bound book from her dressing table. It is a guide to etiquette, one of the many popular advice books that dictated every aspect of a lady's proper conduct. Her voice, if she were to read it aloud, would be a soft, measured recitation, the words a constant reminder of the rules of her world. A true lady, she might read, the words a quiet whisper in the room, is always known by her quiet demeanor. Her voice is never raised in anger or excitement. Her laughter is gentle, never loud. She moves through a room with a serene grace, her steps small and measured, so that the drapery of her skirt may flow elegantly behind her, without any unseemly haste. She might turn a page. In conversation, she must be an agreeable and attentive listener. She should not offer strong opinions on subjects such as politics or business, as these are the province of gentlemen. Her role is to create a pleasant and harmonious atmosphere through her gentle inquiries and her modest deference to the opinions of others. These are the rules of her existence, the invisible corset that shapes her behavior just as the physical one shapes her body. With these principles fresh in her mind, she proceeds to her first duty of the mid-morning, her correspondence. She seats herself at her writing desk, a quiet and orderly space. Before she begins, she might wind up a small, delicate music box that sits on the corner of the desk. As she works, the faint, tinkling notes of a simple melody, perhaps a tune from a popular opera, provide a gentle, melancholic backdrop. The sound is delicate, mechanical, and perfectly ordered, much like the life she leads. She selects a sheet of fine, thick paper and takes up her quill pen. The only sound for a time is the quiet, rhythmic scratching of the nib on the paper's surface, a dry, intimate sound. That is the voice of the written word being born. Today, she has several letters to write, each with a different purpose and a different tone. Her first is a letter of familial duty to her mother who lives in another city. As she writes, we can almost hear the soft recitation of the words in her mind. My dearest Mama, the letter would begin, the script elegant and controlled. I trust this letter finds you in good health and that your spirits are bright. The weather here has been rather damp, but the garden is looking lovely. We were so pleased to hear that Cousin Eleanor's little one has recovered from his cold. Please do send her my love. I have been practicing the piece of music you sent, and I find it challenging but truly beautiful. Your loving daughter. The letter is a carefully constructed performance of affection and duty. It shares news, but only pleasant news. It expresses concern, but with a polite, formal restraint. It is a thread in the great web of family connection, a way of maintaining bonds across a distance. The next letter is a social obligation. It is a reply to an invitation to a dinner party next week. She takes a new sheet of paper. The language here is even more formal. Mrs. William Harrington accepts with pleasure the kind invitation of Mr. and Mrs. Alastair to dine on the evening of Tuesday the 14th of November. The note is brief, precise, and follows a rigid formula. There is no personal flourish, no unnecessary sentiment. It is a simple, functional piece of communication in the complex machinery of society. Each invitation sent and received, accepted or declined, is a small but significant act that defines one's place in the social hierarchy. A full dance card and a busy schedule of dinners are the signs of a successful social life. Finally, she might write a more personal letter to a dear friend or a sister. Here, the tone can be slightly more relaxed. The quill writing sound might become a little faster, a little more energetic. The recitation of this letter would reveal a different side of her. My dearest Clara, she might write. The most amusing thing happened at the Crosby's tea yesterday. Young Miss Percival, in her eagerness to impress the new curate, managed to spill a full cup of tea directly onto her lap. You have never seen such a panic. I almost felt sorry for her, but it was a lesson in the dangers of excessive enthusiasm. This is the world of shared secrets, of gentle gossip, and of the private humor that can only be shared between trusted friends. It is in letters like these, with their whispered confidences and sharp observations, that the true life of the Victorian lady, with her own thoughts, feelings, and opinions, can be glimpsed. Beneath the polished, public facade, the quiet ritual of the afternoon tea has concluded. The silver tray, with its delicate, empty china cup and the few remaining crumbs of seed cake, has been silently cleared away by the maid. A deep and peaceful stillness settles upon the morning room, punctuated only by the steady ticking of the mantel clock and the soft, crackling sigh of the fire as a log shifts in the grate. You sit for a moment in quiet repose, your embroidery resting in your lap. Glancing out the window, you notice that the steady, drumming rain has softened to a fine, silvery mist, and a pale, watery sunlight is beginning to break through the clouds. The garden, washed clean by the downpour, beckons. A desire for fresh air, for a gentle movement after hours of quiet sitting, takes hold. You pull the embroidered bell cord, and in a moment, your maid appears, ready to assist with the small but necessary preparations for a walk. She brings you a heavy, woolen shawl of a deep tartan pattern, its fabric soft and warm, and drapes it carefully around your shoulders. The afternoon air, though no longer wet, will carry a distinct chill. She then helps you exchange your indoor silk slippers for a pair of more practical, sturdy leather boots, essential for navigating the damp gravel paths and lawns. Finally, she hands you a pair of leather gloves. Thus armed against the elements, you leave the warmth of the room and make your way to the terrace doors. Your chaperone, who has been occupied with her own quiet pursuits in an adjoining room, rises to join you, her own shawl already in place. The two of you step out onto the stone terrace, and the air that greets you is a sensory delight. It is cool, clean, and heavy with the rich, earthy scent of wet soil and damp stone, a fragrance known as petrichor. The world seems brighter, the colors of the garden more saturated and vivid after the rain. You descend the stone steps and begin your slow, stately walk along the main gravel path. The sound of your boots on the damp, compacted gravel is a soft, rhythmic crunch, a pleasingly solid sound in the quiet afternoon. Water drips with a gentle, musical plinking from the leaves of the great yew hedges that line the path. Every surface seems to be glistening, covered in a million tiny, jewel-like droplets of rain that catch the pale sunlight. You walk without a specific destination in mind, the purpose of this outing being the gentle exercise and the quiet contemplation it affords. You pass the great, formal flower beds, their summer blooms now faded, the soil dark and rich, awaiting the spring. You admire the stark, beautiful geometry of the clipped boxwood hedges that form an intricate knot garden, their leaves a deep, glossy green against the gray sky. Your path takes you towards the old stone wall at the far end of the garden. Here, you pause to admire the tenacity of the ivy, its leaves still a vibrant green even as the rest of the world prepares for winter. You reach out a gloved hand and trace the line of a thick, woody vine as it climbs the weathered stone. Droplets of rain cling to the waxy surfaces of the leaves, each one a perfect, miniature world reflecting the sky above. This small act of connection with the quiet, enduring life of the garden is calming, a reminder of the slow, patient, and powerful cycles of nature that exist far beyond the fleeting dramas of human society. The walk is brief, no more than 20 minutes, but it is a vital part of your day, a necessary clearing of the head, and a gentle stimulation of the senses before you must return to the enclosed, lamplit world of the house. Upon your return, there is another, deeply important part of your afternoon routine to attend to, the visit to the nursery. As the mistress of the house, your role as a mother is paramount, though it is governed by the same sense of structure and formality that defines every other aspect of your life. You ascend the grand staircase once more, but This time you proceed to the upper floors, to a part of the house that is a world unto itself. As you approach, the character of the house changes. The air is warmer here, the corridors simpler. You hear the faint sound of a child's quiet laughter, a sound rarely heard on the formal floors below. You open the door to the nursery and step inside. The nursery is a large, airy room, its windows fitted with bars for safety. The atmosphere is entirely different from the rest of the house. The dark, heavy furniture is gone, replaced by smaller, more practical pieces painted in light colors. The walls are not covered in formal, dark wallpaper, but in a lighter paper with a cheerful pattern of animals or storybook characters. A fire burns brightly behind a tall, brass fireguard. The room smells of clean linen, warm milk, and Castile soap. A formidable-looking woman in a starched white apron and cap rises as you enter. This is Nanny, the true ruler of this domain, the woman who oversees your children's daily lives with a firm but loving hand. Your two children, a boy of 5 and a girl of 3, are already bathed and dressed for bed in their long, white nightgowns. They are playing quietly on the floor with a set of carved wooden blocks. At the sight of you, they stop their play and stand, their faces scrubbed and shining. They do not run to you for an effusive hug. Instead, they approach you with a quiet reverence, and each gives you a small, formal curtsy or bow. This is the children's hour, a structured period each day when you spend time with your offspring. You greet them with a warm, gentle smile, your affection real but expressed within the bounds of formal etiquette. You might kneel down, your great skirts pooling around you, and ask your son about the story his governess read to him that day. He might proudly show you a page from his copybook, covered in his first, shaky attempts to write the letters of the alphabet. You praise his efforts, your voice full of gentle encouragement. You might then listen as your young daughter recites a short nursery rhyme, her small voice clear and sweet in the quiet room. You do not engage in loud or boisterous play. Your role is not that of a playmate, but that of a serene, loving, and morally upright figure, the embodiment of motherhood to be admired and respected. You are here to inspect their progress, to ensure they are clean, well-fed, and being raised with the correct values and manners. You might ask Nanny a quiet question about the children's appetites or their general health. After half an hour, when the clock on the nursery mantelpiece chimes the designated time, the visit is over. You kiss each child gently on the forehead. They perform another small curtsy and bow, and then Nanny leads them away to their beds. You leave the nursery, the sounds of your children's world fading behind you, and return to the silence of your own chambers, your duty as a mother fulfilled for the day. The sun has now set. The final transformation of the day awaits. You return to your bedchamber to find that your maid has already laid out your evening gown. This is a second, complete dressing ritual. The wool day dress is unbuttoned and removed. The corset may even be loosened slightly for a moment before being laced even tighter for the evening's more form-fitting bodice. A new set of underpinnings is donned, including a petticoat with a silk flounce that will make a more dramatic rustling sound as you walk. The evening gown itself is a magnificent creation of deep green silk, its neckline cut lower to reveal your shoulders, its short sleeves little more than a puff of lace. The bodice is adorned with intricate beadwork that glitters like a constellation in the gaslight. The entire process of dressing is repeated, a familiar ceremony of layers and fastenings. Your hair is restyled, any stray wisps tucked away, and perhaps a jeweled comb or a fresh flower is added as a final adornment. More valuable jewelry is brought out from a locked safe, a diamond necklace, perhaps, or pearl drop earrings. You are being prepared for the evening, for your role as the glittering hostess and the perfect wife. The chapter of your day that was defined by quiet, solitary pursuits is over. You are once again a public figure, a work of art, a symbol of your husband's wealth and status. You stand, fully attired, a completely different woman from the one who walked in the garden just a few hours ago. You are waiting, listening for the sound of your husband's carriage in the drive, ready to begin the final, formal act of your long and highly structured day. While the lady of the house presides over a quiet, domestic kingdom of embroidered flowers and social calls, her husband The Victorian gentleman inhabits a completely different world. His is a world of commerce, industry, politics, and society, a world that is louder, faster, and built not of brick and wood alone, but of iron, steam, and ambition. To understand his day is to leave the serene, enclosed sanctuary of the home and journey into the bustling, energetic heart of the city, where the great engines of progress and finance are shaping the modern age. His life is one of quiet authority, of calculated risks, and of the responsibilities that come with being a man of property and standing in a time of immense change. His day begins with a departure. After a quick and formal breakfast, there is a polite, almost businesslike farewell to his wife in the grand entrance hall. A kiss to the cheek, a quiet word about his expected return time, and then he is out the door. A carriage, driven by his coachman, is waiting to take him not into town, but to the local railway station. The train is the great artery of this new age, a marvel of speed and power that connects his peaceful country or suburban life to the dynamic center of business. The station itself is a place of organized chaos, the hiss of steam from the great, black locomotive, the sharp blast of the station master's whistle, the rumbling of luggage carts on the platform, and the murmur of other gentlemen and travelers waiting to board. He finds his seat in a first-class carriage. This is a small, private world of masculine comfort. The seats are wide and upholstered in plush, deep blue velvet or dark, buttoned leather. The walls are paneled in polished mahogany, and the brass luggage racks above the seats gleam softly in the morning light. As the train lurches forward and slowly picks up speed, the world outside becomes a blur of green fields and passing farmhouses. The primary sound is the steady, rhythmic clack-clack, clack-clack of the wheels on the rails, a powerful, hypnotic beat that is the very pulse of the industrial age. Occasionally, the mournful whistle of another train can be heard in the distance as it passes on a parallel track. This journey is not idle time. The Victorian gentleman is a man of purpose. From his leather briefcase, he takes out the morning newspaper, perhaps the Times or the Wall Street Journal. He unfolds the large, broadsheet pages, and the crisp, dry rustle of the paper is the defining sound of his commute. He is not reading society gossip or serialized romances. His eyes scan the financial pages, noting the rise and fall of railway stocks and government bonds. He reads the political reports from the Capitol, analyzing the latest debates in Parliament or Congress. He absorbs the news of shipping, of cotton prices, of the great movements of commerce that power the empire and his own fortunes. The train carries him physically towards the city, while the newspaper transports him mentally into the world of affairs that he will command for the day. Arriving at the grand, smoke-filled terminus in the city, he steps into a world of immense energy. The noise is a deafening roar of shouting porters, steam whistles, and the clatter of 1,000 hurried footsteps. He navigates this bustling crowd with a calm, purposeful stride and makes his way by hansom cab to his office. The office is his daytime fortress, a space as distinctly masculine as his wife's drawing room is feminine. It is a room of solid, serious furniture. A large, heavy desk of oak or mahogany dominates the space, its surface orderly and businesslike. Leather-bound ledgers are stacked neatly to one side. A heavy brass inkstand holds pots of black ink, and a terrestrial globe stands in the corner, a quiet reminder of the international reach of his business interests. The chairs are of dark leather, solid and comfortable. The air smells of paper, ink, and the faint, pleasant aroma of the cigar he may have smoked here the previous evening. In a corner of the office, or perhaps in an adjoining room, sits one of the newest and most exciting inventions of the age, the typewriter. It is a heavy, black, metal machine, an early Remington perhaps, with a complex arrangement of levers and keys. It is not the quiet, discreet machine of the future. It is loud and mechanical. A clerk, or perhaps one of the new class of working women known as a typewriter girl, sits before it, their fingers striking the keys with a sharp, percussive force. Each keystroke produces a loud, satisfying clack, and the end of each line is announced by a sharp, clear ding from a small bell. The typewriter is the sound of modern business. It represents speed, efficiency, and a new kind of impersonal, standardized communication. A letter typed on this machine looks clean, serious, and important, a world away from the looping, personal script of a handwritten note. The core of the gentleman's workday is conversation and negotiation. We can imagine him now in a meeting with a business partner and a hopeful inventor. The inventor, a man with ink-stained fingers and an excited gleam in his eye, is unrolling a set of technical drawings on the great desk. They are discussing a new patent. A patent is a special paper from the government that says only you have the right to make and sell a new invention for a certain number of years. It is the key to immense fortune. The talk is of practical things, of steel quality, of manufacturing, costs, of electrical currents and gear ratios. The inventor might be explaining his new design for a more efficient steam engine, a new kind of telegraph repeater, or a new piece of machinery that can harvest crops faster than ever before. The gentleman listens intently, his questions sharp and to the point. He is not just an investor. He is a man who understands the mechanics of this new industrial world. This is the heart of Victorian progress, the meeting of invention and capital, the belief that new ideas and smart investment can create wealth and constantly push the world forward. After a long day of meetings, contracts, and calculations, the gentleman does not go straight home. The transition between the world of work and the world of home requires an important intermediate step. He makes his way to his club. The gentleman's club is a private, all-male sanctuary, a second home for the man of means. It is usually a grand, imposing building of stone, its windows tall and its entrance guarded by a stern-looking porter. To step inside is to enter a world of profound, hushed comfort. The noise and dirt of the city street vanish, replaced by a deep, respectful silence. The floors are covered in thick, plush carpets that swallow the sound of footsteps. The walls are paneled in dark, gleaming wood and hung with oil paintings of stern-faced club presidents from generations past. The air is warm and smells of old leather, wood polish, and fine tobacco. This is a place of absolute peace and privacy, governed by strict rules. Business talk is forbidden in the main lounge. Silence is mandatory in the library. It is a fortress of masculine repose. Our gentleman finds his favorite armchair, a colossal creation of buttoned leather that seems to sigh as he settles into it. A waiter, who seems to move without making a sound, approaches. "The usual, sir?" he asks in a low voice. The gentleman nods, and a moment later a small tray arrives with a heavy, crystal decanter of brandy and a single glass. Now comes the evening's primary ritual. From a carved wooden humidor on a nearby table, he selects a cigar. He examines it, rolls it between his fingers, and then, using a special silver cutter, clips the end. He takes a long, wooden match from a silver box. We hear the sharp, rasping sound of the match striking against the side of the box. A small, sulfurous-smelling flame erupts, and he holds it to the end of the cigar, puffing gently until the tip is glowing evenly. The first cloud of rich, blue-gray smoke, fragrant and sweet, fills the air around him. This slow, deliberate ritual is an act of unwinding away, to shed the pressures of the day and settle into a state of comfortable, contemplative relaxation. The deep, comforting quiet of the gentleman's club, with its thick carpets and respectful silence, is now a distant memory. He sits in the carriage, the rhythmic clatter of the horse's hooves on the dark country lane a steady beat, carrying him homeward. The journey back is a time of quiet transition, a slow decompression from the pressures and energies of the city. He has spent his day in a world of men, of commerce, of politics, and of industry. The world he is returning to is entirely different. It is a world he owns and commands, yet it is one that is fundamentally governed by a different set of rules, a different rhythm, and a different presiding spirit, that of his wife. As the carriage makes its final turn up the long gravel drive, he sees his home, a great, dark shape against the night sky, its windows glowing with a warm, welcoming light. It is a beacon of order, peace, and domestic tranquility, a world apart. The carriage crunches to a halt. The door is opened for him by his coachman, and he steps out into the cool, clean night air, which smells of damp earth and greenery. The great front door of the manor swings open before he reaches it, held by the butler, who gives a silent, formal nod of welcome. The moment he steps across the threshold, the shift is absolute. He is enveloped by the warmth of the house and the faint, pleasant scent of beeswax and dried flowers. The harsh, demanding world of the city is shut out behind him. His wife is waiting in the hall to greet him. She has changed into a magnificent evening gown, and her presence is one of serene, welcoming elegance. Their greeting is affectionate but restrained, a soft kiss on the cheek. "You are home late, my dear," she might say, her voice a low, calm murmur. Was the city dreadful? He might reply with a tired sigh, "As always." But the work is done. It is a simple, familiar exchange, the formal beginning of their shared evening. The butler takes his hat, his coat, and his heavy leather briefcase. Now unburdened, the gentleman follows his wife from the grand, formal hall into a smaller, more intimate drawing room. A cheerful fire is crackling in the hearth, and the gas lamps have been lit, casting a soft, steady, golden glow over the room. This is their private space for the evening. A servant appears with a tray, bearing a decanter of claret and 2 glasses, and perhaps a small plate of cold sliced meat and bread, a light supper for him after his meal at the club. They sit, not side by side, but in 2 comfortable armchairs positioned near the fire, a small table between them. This is the time for the day's true reunion, the quiet merging of their 2 separate worlds. He will tell her of his day, but it will be a carefully edited version. He will not trouble her with the complex details of a patent dispute or the dry specifics of a financial report. Instead, he might mention a successful meeting or share an amusing anecdote about a colleague at the club. He will speak of the wider world, of a piece of political news he read in the paper, giving her the information she needs to be a well-informed hostess. In return, she will share the news of her own domain. She will tell him of the letter from her sister, the successful fitting with the seamstress, and the impending social call from Lady Ashworth. He listens with quiet attention, for the smooth running of his social life is as important to his career as his business acumen. They are partners, each managing their own essential sphere of influence. Their conversation is the gentle stitching that joins his world of masculine work and her world of feminine society into a single, powerful family unit. After their quiet talk and light supper, the evening settles into a state of peaceful, shared leisure. There is no loud entertainment, no great social gathering on this ordinary night. Instead, they enjoy a quiet pursuit together. Perhaps she will read aloud from a new novel by a popular author like Anthony Trollope, her calm, cultured voice filling the quiet room as she narrates the complex social lives and moral dilemmas of another fictional family. Or, more likely, she will move to the magnificent piano that stands in the corner of the room. He will settle back into his armchair, his eyes closed, and listen as she plays. Her fingers, which earlier in the day were busy with the patient work of embroidery, now move gracefully over the ivory and ebony keys. She does not play a loud, dramatic concerto. She plays a soft, contemplative piece, perhaps a nocturne by Chopin, its melody beautiful, romantic, and tinged with a gentle melancholy. The music fills the room, a perfect expression of the era's love for refined, heartfelt emotion. It is a shared moment of profound peace and cultural harmony. The music speaks of a world of beauty, order, and deep feeling, a world they have both worked all day, in their own separate ways, to build and maintain. For half an hour, there is nothing but the sound of the piano, the soft crackle of the fire, and the quiet, shared breaths of a husband and wife at rest in the heart of their home. As the clock on the mantelpiece chimes 10, they both know it is time to retire for the night. The long day is finally at its end. He rises from his chair and makes his way up the grand staircase, this time not with the purposeful stride of the morning, but with a slower, more weary tread. He proceeds not to the master bedroom, but to his own private dressing room, a distinctly masculine space that adjoins the main chamber. His valet, a man of quiet competence and discretion, is waiting for him. The final ritual of the day, the gentleman's undressing, is about to begin. It is a process of unburdening, of shedding the heavy, formal layers of his public persona. The valet helps him off with his heavy frock coat, which is immediately placed on a wooden hanger to be brushed and aired in the morning. Then comes the moment of greatest relief, the removal of the collar. His collar is not part of his shirt, but a separate, brutally stiff circle of starched linen held in place with studs. The valet unfastens it, and the gentleman can be seen to roll his neck, a small, unconscious gesture of freedom. The silk cravat is carefully untied, smoothed out, and folded away. His waistcoat is unbuttoned, and his heavy leather shoes are unlaced and removed by the valet, who will polish them to a mirror shine before morning. He steps out of his trousers and shirt, which the valet takes without a word, knowing exactly which items need to be laundered and which simply need to be pressed. This entire process is a silent, efficient valet. The valet is the expert guardian of his master's wardrobe, a man whose skill ensures that the gentleman's appearance is always impeccable. Finally, the valet holds open a magnificent dressing gown of heavy, dark red silk with a quilted collar. The gentleman slips his arms into it, the soft, smooth fabric of final, luxurious comfort. He is no longer the powerful man of business or the formal host. He is simply a man in his private chambers at the end of his day. He may sit for a few moments in an armchair, having a final, small glass of water, his mind quietly winding down. Then, he walks through a private, connecting door into the master bedroom. His wife, having undergone her own, separate undressing ritual, is likely already in the great bed, perhaps reading a book by the light of a single candle. He gets into bed, the cool, crisp linen, a welcome sensation. The last candle is snuffed out. The house is now completely dark, completely silent, save for the steady ticking of the clock and the gentle whisper of the wind in the great trees outside. The journey is over. He has returned from the world, and now, in the quiet darkness of his home, he can finally rest. Let us step away now from the grand narratives of industry and society and linger for a while in the quieter corners of Victorian life. Let us explore the small, everyday wonders that brought beauty, amusement, and a sense of magic to their world. These are the hidden treasures found not in a great museum, but in a private garden or on a simple parlor table. Our journey now is a whispered stroll through the gentle, sensory pleasures that filled the peaceful hours of a day in the late 19th century. It is a world of soft sunlight, fragrant flowers, and the first flickering images of a new kind of magic, a magic made by human hands and clever minds. We begin in the garden. It is a warm, still afternoon, and the air is soft. We step out from the cool shade of the house onto a path of finely crushed gravel. The sound of our footsteps is a gentle, rhythmic crunch, a calming and steady beat in the quiet air. A soft wind, barely a breeze, whispers through the high leaves of the elm trees, a sound like a distant, sighing sea. The garden is a world of ordered, cultivated beauty, a living tapestry of color and scent. The air is sweet with the perfume of blooming flowers, the spicy, clove-like scent of carnations, the sweet perfume of honeysuckle climbing a stone wall, and the rich, complex fragrance of 1,000 roses. We walk beside the long flower beds, and here, the air is alive with a gentle, drowsy humming. It is the sound of hundreds of bees, moving with a placid, determined industry from one flower to the next. We pause to watch them. We see a large, fuzzy bumblebee land on the heavy, drooping head of a peony. Its black and yellow body is striking contrast to the pale pink of the petals. It disappears into the heart of the flower, and its humming becomes a muffled, contented buzz. This constant, gentle sound is the garden's own music, the peaceful soundtrack of its slow, sun-drenched life. Above this deep hum, we can hear the clear, melodic notes of birdsong. A robin might be perched on a high branch, its cheerful, warbling song a delight to the ear. In the distance, the sad, beautiful, and liquid call of a blackbird echoes through the trees. The air is a symphony of these quiet, natural sounds, a perfect antidote to the noise and hurry of the city. Our eyes take in the details. We observe a single, perfect rose, its crimson petals just beginning to unfurl, a dewdrop from a brief morning shower still clinging to its edge like a tiny, perfect diamond. We see the intricate, veined patterns on the leaves of an ivy plant as it clings to the warm, weathered stone of the garden wall, its dark green a beautiful contrast to the pale gray of the stone. We notice the small, unimportant things that are the true fabric of a peaceful afternoon. A ladybug slowly making its way up a leaf, the way the soft wind makes a field of tall lavender flowers sway like a purple ocean, the sudden, brilliant flash of a dragonfly's wings as it darts past. This slow, observant walk is a meditation, a quiet appreciation for the small, hidden wonders of the natural world, a world of simple, honest beauty that provided a deep sense of peace and tranquility to the Victorian soul. Now, let us retreat from the bright, sunlit garden back into the cool, dim quiet of the house, for here, another kind of wonder awaits. We enter the parlor, a room filled with heavy furniture and thick velvet curtains that soften the afternoon light. On a small, polished table in the corner sits a curious wooden object. It looks a bit like a pair of eyeglasses, but it is mounted on a handle with a sliding rack in front of it. This is a stereoscope, one of the most popular and magical inventions of the age. It was a form of home entertainment, a personal window onto the entire world. Beside the viewer is a wooden box, and inside are dozens of special cards. Each card, called a stereograph, has two photographs mounted side by side. The two pictures look almost identical, but they were taken with a special camera with two lenses set slightly apart, just like our own two eyes. The pictures on the cards are flat, two-dimensional images of faraway and exotic places. There is a picture of the Great Pyramids in Egypt, their stony forms stark against a pale sky. There is another of a mighty glacier in the Swiss Alps, a river of ice flowing between jagged mountain peaks. There is a picture of a bustling street scene in London, with horse-drawn buses and crowds of people in top hats and bonnets. They are fascinating to look at, but they are just flat pictures. But now, the magic begins. You pick up one of the cards, the one of the pyramids, and slide it into the rack on the front of the stereoscope. You lift the wooden viewer to your eyes, holding it by its smooth, carved handle. You look through the two glass lenses, and for a moment, you see two blurry, overlapping images. You slide the card holder slowly forward or backward, adjusting the focus. And then it happens. Suddenly, the two flat images snap together into a single, breathtaking picture. The effect is miraculous. The scene is no longer flat. It now has depth, it has dimension, it feels real. The Great Pyramid is no longer a flat triangle on a piece of cardboard. It is a colossal, three-dimensional mountain of stone rising up before you. The smaller pyramids behind it now seem to be truly in the distance. The flat, sandy ground stretches away into a vast, empty desert. You feel as if you could almost step into the picture, as if you could feel the dry, hot air of Egypt on your skin. You take out the card and try another, the one of the Swiss Alps. Again, the magic happens. The mountains are no longer a flat, painted backdrop. They are now towering, majestic peaks with a real sense of height and distance. You can perceive the space between the different mountain ranges, the steep, dizzying drop of a valley below. This simple, wooden gadget was the virtual reality of the Victorian age. For a person who might never leave their own town, it offered a chance to travel the world, to see its great wonders in what felt like stunning, realistic three dimensions. It was a source of endless fascination and delight, a quiet, personal, and truly hidden wonder to be enjoyed in the parlor on a rainy afternoon. As evening falls, another, even more magical device might be brought out. This is the magic lantern, a precursor to the modern slide projector. Imagine the parlor after dark. The heavy curtains are drawn and the gas lamps are turned down low, leaving the room in a state of expectant darkness. The family gathers, their faces filled with anticipation. On a table sits the magic lantern. It is a metal box, often made of brass or painted tin, with a chimney on top. Inside is a bright light source, perhaps a powerful oil lamp with a reflector behind it to concentrate the light. At the front of the box is a lens, a glass tube that can be moved back and forth to focus the image. The images for the lantern are not on paper, but on long strips of glass. These lantern slides are works of art in themselves. Each one is a beautifully hand-painted, transparent picture. A set of slides might tell a popular story like Cinderella or Jack and the Beanstalk. Another set might show pictures of exotic animals, lions, tigers, and elephants, from the far reaches of the British Empire. Another might illustrate a moral tale or a biblical story. The show begins. The lantern is lit, and a bright, empty square of light appears on a white wall or a hung sheet. The room is silent. Then, the first slide is inserted into a slot on the side of the lantern. A magnificent, luminous image suddenly appears. On the wall, its colors rich and glowing in the darkness like a stained glass window. The effect is breathtaking. The characters and scenes are larger than life, brought into the room as if by magic. The father of the family might narrate the story as each new picture appears, his voice a low, dramatic whisper. The children watch, their eyes wide with wonder. The magic lantern brought stories to life. It transported its audience to faraway lands, and it filled a dark, quiet evening at home with light, color, and a sense of shared, magical delight. The soft, magical glow of the lantern slides has faded, and the parlor has been returned to the warm, steady light of its gas lamps. The journey into the world of man-made wonders is complete. But the Victorian age was a time of many marvels, not all of them contained within the walls of a quiet home. To truly understand the texture of daily life, we must now step outside once more, leaving the private sanctuary of the house and venturing into the bustling, energetic, and wonderfully varied world of a city street in the late 19th century. Let us imagine it is a bright, clear afternoon, and we are taking a slow, observational walk through the heart of town. The first thing that strikes you is the sound. It is a constant, complex symphony of motion. The dominant rhythm is the sharp, percussive clatter of countless iron-shod horse hooves on the hard, cobblestone streets. It is a sound so constant that it becomes a kind of background music for the entire city. Woven into this is the loud, rumbling sound of iron-rimmed wagon wheels, the high-pitched jingle of harnesses, the occasional sharp crack of a driver's whip, and the shouts of vendors selling their wares. In the distance, a great public clock on a church tower begins to chime the hour, its deep, resonant bells a stately and powerful voice that rises above the street-level noise, a reminder of the orderly, structured time that governs this busy world. A soft wind whispers along the street, carrying with it the smell of coal smoke, horses, and roasting chestnuts from a street corner vendor. Your eyes are drawn to the magnificent parade of carriages that fills the street. They are a clear and immediate guide to the social standing of their occupants. You see a large, public horse-drawn omnibus, a kind of early bus, lumbering past, its upper and lower decks crowded with passengers from all walks of life. Then, a quick, nimble hansom cab, with its two large wheels and the driver perched high up at the back, darts through an opening in the traffic, carrying a single gentleman on an urgent errand. You see the heavy, slow-moving dray wagons, pulled by massive, powerful draft horses, their flatbeds piled high with barrels from a brewery or crates of goods for the shops. And then, you see, an elegant, private brougham, its lacquered body gleaming, its windows polished. Inside, you catch a brief glimpse of a lady in a fine hat, sealed in her own small, quiet world, observing the bustling street from a position of serene detachment. As you walk, your attention is drawn to the shop fronts, each one a unique and inviting display. You pause before a draper's shop. Its large, new plate glass window, a marvel of modern technology, offers a tempting view of the treasures within. Bolts of rich fabrics are artfully arranged. Deep blue wools, shimmering silks, and fine, printed cottons from Manchester. A fashion plate, a colored illustration from a popular magazine, is propped up in the corner, showing a lady in a magnificent gown with a dramatic bustle, offering inspiration and setting the standard for the season style. Next door is a tobacconist, a warm and fragrant establishment. Its window is a carefully arranged display of pipes of all shapes and sizes, from simple clay pipes to more ornate ones carved from meerschaum. There are handsome wooden boxes of imported cigars, their paper bands printed with exotic names and colorful tins of pipe and snuff tobacco. The shop exudes an air of solid, masculine comfort. Further down the street, you come to a shop that is a world of pure delight, especially for the children who stop to press their noses against its window pane. It is the sweet shop or candy store. Inside, the walls are lined with shelves holding dozens of large, clear glass jars, each filled with brightly colored treasures. The jars are a wonderland of shapes and colors. There are striped, minty humbugs, round, sour lemon drops that make your mouth water just to look at them, sticks of dark, chewy licorice, and simple, golden twists of barley sugar. A mother and her small son are inside. The shopkeeper, a kindly woman in a clean white apron, takes down a jar. With a small metal scoop, she weighs out a penny's worth of candy on a brass scale. She then pours the sweets into a small cone, twisted from a piece of paper, and hands it to the boy, whose face is a perfect picture of pure, unadulterated joy. This small, simple transaction, this hidden wonder of penny candy in a paper cone, is as much a part of the daily life of this age as the grand carriages and fine houses. As the afternoon begins to fade and the gaslights on the street begin to be lit, we return to the quiet sanctuary of the home. The day of work, of errands, of social calls is over. The family has taken its evening meal, and now, in the hours between dinner and bedtime, they gather in the parlor for the final, cozy chapter of their day. The heavy velvet curtains are drawn, shutting out the night and the city. The fire is burning brightly, casting a warm, flickering glow on the faces of the family. The room is a fortress of warmth, light, and domestic peace. This is the time for parlor games, a beloved and essential part of Victorian family life. These games were not just a way to pass the time. They were a way to be together, to engage in polite, cheerful interaction, and often to reinforce the moral values of the household. One of the most popular games was charades. We can imagine the family playing now. The father, a man who earlier in the day was making serious decisions about business and finance, is now on his feet, a playful look on his face. He is acting out a word, his movements dramatic and exaggerated, but completely silent. He might be pretending to row a boat, or to be a brave soldier, or to drink a cup of tea. His family watches, their faces alight with amusement and concentration. Is it a ship? His daughter might ask. No, his son would laugh. They shout out their guesses, their voices filled with gentle, happy laughter, until someone finally guesses the correct word. The game is a simple, creative, and joyful way to interact, to be silly, together within the bounds of propriety. On another evening, the entertainment might be a game of cards, not the serious, high-stakes gambling that might take place in a gentleman's club, but a simple, family-friendly game like whist or even a children's game of snap. A special card table with a folding top covered in green felt is set up in the center of the room. The father shuffles the deck of cards, the sound a soft, satisfying rustle. He deals the cards with a practiced efficiency. The family plays, their conversation a mix of game strategy and light-hearted teasing. The soft slap of a card being played on the felt table is a quiet, rhythmic sound that blends with the crackling of the fire and the steady ticking of the clock. There were also many board games. A beautiful, inlaid wooden chessboard might be brought out for a slow, strategic game between father and son, or they might play a more modern game, printed on a colorful paperboard. Many of these games were designed to teach moral lessons. A popular one was called the Mansion of Happiness, where players would advance along a spiral track towards the central goal of heaven. You could only advance by landing on squares marked with virtues like honesty, piety, or humility. If you landed on a square marked with a vice, like pride or cruelty, you would be sent back. The game was a fun and engaging way to reinforce the moral code that was at the very heart of the Victorian family ideal. These quiet evenings, spent together in the warm glow of the firelight, engaged in these simple, shared pleasures, were the ultimate expression of the Victorian domestic dream. They were the hidden wonder that all the hard work, all the rules of etiquette, and all the grand houses were designed to protect. The simple, profound happiness of a family, safe and together in their home. Let us now leave the formal, adult world of the downstairs rooms, the parlors of polite conversation and the studies of serious business, and ascend the great staircase. We climb past the main bedchambers, higher still, to the very top of the house. Here, under the eaves, lies a separate, self-contained kingdom, a world with its own rules, its own schedule, and its own unique atmosphere. This is the domain of the children. In the Victorian household, children were often seen as small beings to be carefully molded and protected, kept apart from the complexities and temptations of adult life. Their world was the nursery and the schoolroom, a quiet, orderly realm where the foundations of their character, their knowledge, and their future place in society were meticulously laid. We first step into the schoolroom, and the atmosphere is one of quiet, disciplined industry. It is a large, airy room, but simpler and more practical than any of the rooms below. There are no velvet curtains or ornate carvings here. The walls are painted a plain, calming color and hung with useful charts and maps. On one wall, a large, detailed map of the world proudly displays the vast, sprawling territories of the British Empire, all colored in a confident, possessive pink. On another wall, a chart displays the letters of the alphabet in neat, perfect rows, each with a small picture beside it. A for apple, B for Bible, C for cat. The furniture is sturdy and functional, made of scrubbed pine or solid oak. There are small, wooden desks, their surfaces scarred with the ink stains and carved initials of generations of children. In the corner stands a tall bookshelf, filled not with leather-bound volumes of poetry, but with primers, textbooks, and books of moral tales. A fire burns low and steady in the hearth, protected by a tall, brass fireguard to keep small, curious hands safe from the flames. The air in the schoolroom smells of chalk dust, old paper, and the faint, clean scent of the soap used to scrub the wooden floors. The primary sound is the quiet, rhythmic scratching of chalk on slate. Each child has their own personal slate, a thin, dark gray piece of stone in a wooden frame. They practice their letters and their sums on this slate, the chalk making a soft, dusty mark. When the lesson is finished, a damp cloth erases their work in an instant, leaving a clean, dark, wet surface ready for the next task. This constant writing and erasing is the daily work of learning, a process of trial and error under the watchful eye of the governess. She sits at a larger desk at the front of the room, a quiet, formidable figure in a simple, dark gray dress. She is the absolute ruler of this small kingdom, responsible for the children's entire education, from reading and arithmetic to geography, history, and proper moral conduct. Her voice is rarely raised, but her presence fills the room with a sense of order and high expectation. From outside, through the open window, we might occasionally hear the faint, distant ringing of a village school bell, a sound that marks the passage of the day for other children. But here, in this private schoolroom, time is measured by the steady, quiet progress of the lessons. Let us watch one of these lessons unfold. A young boy, perhaps 7 years old, is seated at his desk, his back perfectly straight. Before him is his primer, an early reading book. The book is open to a page with a simple woodcut illustration of a boy and his dog, and beneath it, a short, simple sentence. The governess points to the first word with a long, wooden pointer. "Read this word for me, Arthur," she says, her voice calm and even. The boy squints in. Concentration. The scratching of his sister's chalk on her slate is the only sound. The B-boy loves his he. Hesitates, his finger tracing the letters. The governess waits patiently. "Dog," he finally says, a look of triumph on his face. "Very good, Arthur," she says with a small, approving nod. "Now, read the whole sentence." This slow, deliberate process is repeated over and over, building the foundations of literacy one word at a time. The story's in. The primer are always simple and always carry a moral lesson about the importance of kindness, honesty, and obedience. His older sister, meanwhile, might be focused on her arithmetic. She is not using a book, but an abacus, a wooden frame with rows of colored beads on wires. The governess gives her a problem. If 1 yard of ribbon costs 3 Pennies. How many yards can be bought for a shilling? The girl's fingers move quickly, sliding the wooden beads along the wires with a soft, clicking sound. She murmurs to herself as she calculates, her brow furrowed in concentration. This tool allows her to visualize the numbers, to understand the logic of addition and division in a physical, tactile way. Her lessons are designed not just to teach her sums, but to train her mind to be orderly and precise, skills she will need one day as the mistress of her own large household. The quiet focus of the schoolroom, the gentle scratching of the chalk, the murmur of recitation, the click of the abacus beads, these are the sounds of young minds being carefully shaped and furnished according to the strict, moral, and highly ordered blueprint of the Victorian age. When the lessons for the day are complete, the books and slates are neatly put away, and the children are released from the studious quiet of the schoolroom into the adjoining nursery. While still a structured and supervised space, the nursery is a place of more freedom and imagination. It is here that the children are allowed to play, and the toys they play with are the hidden wonders that shape their inner worlds. Let us explore the contents of the nursery toy chest. First, we see the dolls. For a Victorian girl, a doll was not just a toy. It was a companion, a child, and a tiny model of the woman she was expected to become. A fine doll would have a beautiful, delicate head made of painted porcelain or waxed composition, with realistic glass eyes that could open and close, and real human hair styled in the fashionable manner. Her body would be made of cloth or kid leather, and she would possess an extensive wardrobe of miniature dresses, hats, and shoes, all perfect copies of adult fashions. A girl would spend countless hours dressing and undressing her doll, hosting tea parties for her, and teaching her lessons, all the while practicing the maternal and domestic skills she herself would one day need. The doll was her first and most important lesson in the art of being a lady. For her brother, the most prized toy might be a handsome hobby horse. It is a simple creation, a beautifully carved and painted wooden horse's head, complete with a leather bridle and reins, mounted on a long, sturdy stick. But in the boy's imagination, it is a magnificent steed, a brave warhorse, or a noble charger. We can see him now, riding his horse around the nursery, his small legs galloping on the floor, his voice making the sounds of whinnies and trumpet calls. He imagines himself as a knight of old, or a cavalry officer in one of the Queen's regiments, charging bravely into battle. The hobby horse is a tool for adventure, a way for a boy who is expected to be strong and brave, to practice the codes of chivalry and courage in the safe confines of his own room. In another corner, we might find a collection of simpler, timeless toys. There is a wooden spinning top, painted with bright stripes of red and blue. A child winds a string around its spindle, places it on the floor, and gives the string a sharp pull. The top leaps to life, spinning with a low, whirring hum, its colors blurring into a single, beautiful pattern. There is a set of finely carved wooden alphabet blocks, their surfaces decorated with letters and pictures, a playful tool for reinforcing the day's lessons. And there might be a magnificent Noah's Ark, a large, painted wooden boat, filled with dozens of pairs of tiny, carved animals, lions, elephants, giraffes, and sheep. These toys are simple, durable, and often handmade. They are designed not just to amuse, but to teach, to encourage imaginative play, and to gently instill the values of the Victorian world: order, creativity, and a quiet, domestic happiness. The day, with its structured lessons and its brief, allotted time for play, now begins its gentle descent into evening. As the afternoon light outside the nursery window softens from gold to a dusky gray, a new routine begins, one that will guide the children from the waking world of rules and imagination into the quiet, uncontrolled world of sleep. The nanny, with a soft clap of her hands, announces that playtime is over. The first lesson of the evening is one of order and responsibility. The spinning tops are carefully placed back into their wooden box. The dolls are undressed from their day clothes and put into their nightgowns, then laid gently in their own miniature beds. The toy soldiers are arranged in neat rows in their box, and the hobby horse is returned to its corner, its head bowed as if in slumber. Every toy has its place, and the children learn from a very early age that the end of play is marked by the careful restoration of order. Once the nursery has been returned to its state of perfect tidiness, the children's evening meal is served. It is not the grand, multi-course dinner that the adults will soon be enjoying downstairs. It is a simple, wholesome, and comforting meal served right here in the nursery on small, sturdy plates. It might be a bowl of warm porridge with a spoonful of brown sugar, a soft-boiled egg with strips of buttered bread for dipping, or a simple, nourishing broth with bread. The children eat at their small table, their manners still under the watchful eye of their nanny. It is a quiet, peaceful meal, designed to fill their bellies and prepare them for a long and restful night's sleep. After the simple supper, the final ritual before story time begins, evening prayers. The children, their faces and hands, now washed and scrubbed clean, are dressed in their long, white, cotton nightgowns. They kneel beside their small beds, their hands pressed together, their heads bowed. Nanny kneels with them, and her voice, soft and reverent in the quiet room, leads them in a simple, rhyming children's prayer. They repeat the words after her, their own small voice is a soft, melodic echo. They pray for their mother and father, for their brothers and sisters, and for all the members of the household. They ask for protection through the night and for forgiveness for any small wrongs they may have committed during the day. This nightly ritual is a cornerstone of their moral education, a moment that instills in them a sense of piety, duty, and their own small place within a larger, divinely ordered universe. It is the final act of their conscious day, a quiet closing of the accounts before they are given over to the world of stories and dreams. With the prayers complete, the most anticipated moment of the evening arrives. The children climb into their beds. The cool, crisp linen sheets a welcome sensation. Nanny moves through the room, turning down the main gaslight, until only a single, small lamp on a side table is burning, its flame casting a low, warm, and gentle glow. The room is now filled with deep, soft shadows that dance and flicker on the walls. She pulls the blankets up to each child's chin, tucking them in snugly. She then settles into a low rocking chair that sits between the two beds, its gentle, rhythmic creak a comforting sound in the stillness. The world is now perfectly quiet, perfectly safe. It is time for a story. Her voice, when she begins to speak, is a soft, gentle whisper, a conspiratorial tone that draws the children in, making them feel as if they are the only two people in the world being told this secret tale. The stories she tells are chosen with care. Some nights, they are moral fables, designed to entertain while reinforcing the day's lessons. She might tell a story of a lazy grasshopper who sang all summer while the diligent ant worked, a gentle reminder of the importance of industry and foresight. She might tell the tale of a curious kitten who disobeyed its mother and wandered too far from home, only to be frightened by a dog, a soft warning about the dangers of disobedience. The children listen, their eyes wide in the dim light, absorbing the simple, powerful lessons about the right and wrong way to live in the world. On other nights, the stories are pure magic. She might recount a classic fairy tale from the Brothers Grimm or Hans Christian Andersen, her whispered voice bringing the characters to life. She tells the story of Cinderella, and the children can almost see the pumpkin turning into a golden carriage in the flickering firelight. They hold their breath as the stepsisters try to force their feet into the glass slipper, and they sigh with deep contentment when the prince finally finds his true bride. She tells them of brave princes fighting fearsome dragons, of clever peasant girls outwitting wicked kings, and of enchanted forests where animals can talk. These stories populate the children's imaginations, filling their minds with a sense of wonder, a belief in justice, and the comforting certainty that goodness and virtue will always triumph in the end. For her young male charge, she might whisper a tale of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, of Sir Lancelot's bravery and Sir Galahad's pure heart. He listens, his hands clutching the blanket, and dreams of the day when he, too, will be a man of honor and courage. The storyteller's voice never rises. Even in the most exciting parts of the story, her tone remains a low, mesmerizing whisper. It is a sound designed to calm, to soothe, to gently pull the children away from the conscious world and towards the edge of sleep. The shadows on the wall become the dark forests of the story. The gentle crackle of the fire becomes the dragon's breath. The children lie perfectly still, their bodies relaxed, their minds completely captivated, floating on the soft, steady current of her voice. As the story reaches its gentle conclusion, the dragon is slain, the princess is rescued, the final, happy sentence is whispered into the quiet room. A new sound begins. The children's eyes are now heavy, their breathing slow, and even the nanny, seeing that they are on the very edge of sleep, begins to hum. It is a simple, traditional lullaby, a wordless melody that she has likely hummed to them every night of their lives. The sound is a low, gentle vibration in the stillness, a pure expression of comfort and safety. It is a sound that says, all is well. You are safe. You can let go. Now, it is the final, soft thread that gently pulls them across the threshold from wakefulness into dream. She continues to hum as she rises from her rocking chair and moves to each bed. She pulls the blankets up a little higher, her touch feather-light. She places a soft, dry kiss on each warm forehead, a silent blessing to guard their sleep. She then picks up the single lamp, and as she moves towards the door, the great, friendly shadows she created now lengthen and merge, swallowing the room in a deep, peaceful darkness. She pauses at the door for one last look at her sleeping charges, their faces serene and innocent in the faint moonlight that now filters through the window. The only sound is the quiet, even rhythm of their breathing. The chapter of their day is well and truly over. With a final, silent nod, she pulls the door closed behind her, the latch clicking with a soft, final sound. The nursery is now an island of perfect peace, a silent, sleeping kingdom resting in the heart of the great, quiet house. The evening deepens. Outside the tall windows, the world has been painted in the dark, soft colors of the night, and a gentle wind whispers through the branches of the old trees, a lonely, sighing sound. Inside, the heavy velvet curtains have been drawn, creating a warm, enclosed, and intimate world, a sanctuary sealed off from the darkness. Outside, the dinner, with its formal courses and polite conversation, is over. The servants have cleared the last of the dishes, and the family now retreats to the parlor for the final, quiet hours of the day. The gas lamps are turned down, low, leaving the room illuminated mostly by the warm, flickering glow of the fire and the soft, individual pools of light, cast by a few well-placed candles. The air is still and warm, and the shadows in the corners of the room are deep and mysterious. This is the time of day when the veil between the practical, sunlit world of commerce and duty and the hidden, inner world of imagination and belief seems to grow thin. The Victorian age was a time of immense scientific progress and industrial power, but it was also an age of deep feeling, of romance, and of a profound fascination with the unknown. In a world that was changing so quickly, a world where life could be hard and often short, many people felt a deep need to believe that there was something more, a world beyond the one they could see and touch. This led to a widespread interest in spiritualism, a belief that it was possible to communicate with the spirits of loved ones who had passed away. The quiet, candlelit parlor, after the children were safely in bed, was the perfect stage for exploring these gentle, thrilling mysteries. The evening might begin not with the supernatural, but with the literary. The family gathers in their comfortable armchairs around the hearth. One of them, perhaps the eldest daughter, has a book of poetry resting in her lap. The poetry of the age was often filled with themes of lost love, of memory, and of the bittersweet sadness of life. Her voice, when she begins to read, is soft and clear, a gentle recitation that fills the quiet room. She might read a poem about a ghost returning to visit a lost love, or a mournful verse about the beauty of a decaying, ivy-covered ruin. The words are chosen to create a specific mood, a feeling of quiet contemplation and gentle melancholy. The family listens in appreciative silence, the flickering firelight illuminating their focused faces. The poem is a shared experience, a way of exploring deep and mysterious feelings together in a safe and cultured way. It tunes their minds, and hearts to a more sensitive, more imaginative frequency, preparing them for the quieter, stranger entertainments to come. As the poetry reading concludes, a different kind of quiet game might be proposed. It is not one of the loud, cheerful charades from their childhood, but a more subtle parlor mystery game. Perhaps they play a game of telling a story in a chain, each person adding one sentence. The goal is often to create the most surprising or spooky tale. The father might begin with a simple sentence. A lone traveler was riding through a dark forest on a moonless night. The story moves around the circle, each person adding a new, quiet detail. A strange sound in the trees, a mysterious light in the distance, a sudden, cold feeling. The game is a gentle exercise in collective imagination, a way of weaving a shared mystery together out of thin air. Or perhaps one of the ladies brings out a small, velvet-wrapped package. She unwraps it to reveal a deck of tarot cards. The cards are old, their edges softened from use, the images on them strange and beautiful. The sound of the cards being shuffled is a soft, dry, whispering sound, a rustling of secrets. She lays them out one by one on a small table covered with a velvet cloth. The soft slap of each card on the fabric is a quiet, deliberate sound. They gaze at the images, the fool stepping off a cliff, the high priestess with her secrets, the ominous, skeletal figure of death on his pale horse. They do not conduct a serious fortune-telling session, but they speak in low voices about the meaning of the cards, the stories they might tell, the futures they might hint at. This quiet handling of the tarot deck is another way of touching the border of the mysterious world, of playfully engaging with the ideas of fate and the unknown. Now, the atmosphere in the room is perfectly set. The mood is quiet, contemplative, and open to the possibility of wonders. Someone suggests that they try to communicate with the spirit world. A small, round table is brought to the center of the room. The main gas lamp is extinguished, plunging the room into a deep, profound darkness, broken only by a single, tall candle placed on the table. The family gathers around the table, their chairs pulled in close. The flickering candlelight creates a small, intimate circle of light, making the shadows around them seem deeper and more vast. This is the beginning of a parlor seance. They all place their hands lightly on the surface of the table, their fingertips just touching those of the person next to them, forming an unbroken chain. A deep silence falls over the room. The only sounds are the steady ticking of the clock on the mantelpiece and the soft, crackling sigh of the fire. The person acting as the medium, perhaps the mother, closes her eyes and takes a few slow, deep breaths. Her voice, when she speaks, is a mere whisper, a sound that seems to be a part of the silence itself. "We are gathered here tonight in peace and with open hearts," she whispers. "We invite any spirit who may be present in this room to join our circle." The silence that follows is heavy with anticipation. Every small sound in the old house, a creak of a floorboard upstairs, the sigh of the wind in the chimney, is now filled with a new and powerful meaning. It could be a sign. The medium continues, her voice a soft, rhythmic chant. She begins to whisper forgotten names, calling out to loved ones who have passed on. "Grandfather Thomas," she might whisper, "we remember you with love. If you are with us, please give us a sign." Everyone at the table sits perfectly still, their senses heightened, their minds focused on the possibility of a connection. Someone might bring out a small, faceted piece of crystal, holding it by a thread over the center of the table. This is another tool for communication. The crystal hangs, motionless, in the still air. "Is there a message for us?" the medium whispers. They all watch the crystal, their gazes intense. A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor might run through the hand of the person holding it, causing the crystal to sway ever so slightly. To the believers in the room, this is not a tremor, it is an answer. The atmosphere is thick with a feeling of profound mystery and a deep, human yearning for connection. It is not about cheap tricks or frightening ghosts. It is about the quiet, heartfelt desire to believe that the bonds of love are stronger than death, and that those we have lost are not truly gone, but are waiting just beyond a thin, invisible veil, a veil that might, for a moment, be lifted in the quiet, candlelit darkness of a peaceful evening. The last whisper of the seance hangs in the air, as tangible as the scent of old wood and cooling embers from the fire. The single candle flame, which had seemed for a moment to be a beacon to another world, is now just a candle. Again, its light soft and ordinary. The family members slowly unclasp their hands, the chain of connection broken. For a moment, a profound silence fills the room, deeper than before. It is the silence of held breath, of minds processing. A strange and powerful experience. Then, one of them lets out a long, slow sigh, and the spell is broken. The room is once more just a parlor, and they are just a family at the end of their evening. The conversation that follows is in hushed, excited tones. They speak not of the everyday world, but of the brief, strange journey they have just taken together. The table grew cold beneath my hands. The mother might say, her voice full of wonder, just as I spoke his name. I am certain he was here with us. The eldest son, more skeptical but still caught up in the mood, might add. And the floorboard that creaked upstairs, it happened at the very moment you asked for a sign. They interpret every small, natural event of the old house. A sudden draft from the chimney that made the candle flicker, a distant rattle of a loose window pane, as a message, a confirmation from the world beyond. They are not trying to fool each other. They are collectively building a narrative of wonder, a shared story that brings comfort and a sense of profound mystery to their quiet lives. This quiet debriefing is a necessary part of the ritual, a gentle return to the shores of the known world after a brief voyage on the strange seas of the unknown. After the intensity of the seance, the mood in the room calls for something lighter, a different kind of mystery to engage their active minds. Spiritual exploration gives way to an intellectual one. They decide to play a parlor game, a favorite pastime for long evenings. It is a game of deduction, a small, domestic version of the detective stories that were becoming so popular in magazines. One person is chosen to be the detective and is sent out of the room. While they are gone, the rest of the family quietly invents a simple and often ridiculous crime. Tonight, they decide that the Admiral's prized parrot has been stolen from its cage by the new French chef who wishes to teach it rude phrases to embarrass his employer at the next dinner party. The story is absurd, but its details are agreed upon in hushed, giggling whispers. The detective is called back into the room. He stands before the seated family, his expression serious and thoughtful, playing his part perfectly. He knows nothing of the crime, and his only tool to solve it is the power of logic. He may only ask questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no. The game begins. Was something stolen? He asks. A chorus of yes comes from the family. Was the stolen object valuable in terms of money? The family thinks. For a moment. No, the mother says, her face a mask of seriousness. The detective files this information away. Was the object alive? He asks, his brow furrowed. A suppressed giggle comes from his younger sister before she manages to say yes. The detective nods slowly. Was it a mammal? A dog, perhaps? No, was it a bird? Yes. The detective's eyes light up with a small spark of triumph. He is on the right path. The questioning continues for many minutes, a slow, patient process of elimination. The only sounds in the room are the detective's calm, logical questions, the family's simple replies, and the soft crackle of the fire. The game is a quiet, intellectual duel. The detective builds his case, one small fact at a time. Was the crime committed by a member of this household? Yes. Was it a servant? Yes. Was it the butler? No, the cook. Yes. With each correct deduction, the family members exchange small, amused glances. They try their best not to give anything away, but the absurdity of their invented story makes it difficult to keep straight faces. The detective, sensing their amusement, continues his line of questioning, eventually uncovering the motive involving the rude phrases and the dinner party, at which point the polite quiet of the game finally breaks into a wave of soft, warm, shared laughter. The mystery is solved. The game, with its structure and its logic, has served its purpose, leading the family away from the unexplainable mysteries of the spirit world and back into a world of solvable, lighthearted puzzles. It is a celebration of the human mind's ability to find order and answers, a comforting and satisfying conclusion to the evenings. Explorations of the unknown. The game is finished, and a gentle, pleasant sense of fatigue now settles over the family. The great clock on the mantelpiece begins to chime the hour of 10, its deep, resonant notes marking the official end of the day. The sound is a signal for the final rituals of the evening to begin. The father rises from his chair and carefully banks the fire, covering the glowing embers with ash so that a small, warm heart will remain until morning. The mother moves through the room, turning down the gaslights one by one, plunging the parlor into a deep, soft darkness, lit only by the faint, dying glow from the hearth. The family exchanges their quiet, affectionate goodnights. A kiss on the cheek, a soft sleep well, a final, warm smile in the dim light. Then, the slow, quiet procession up to bed begins. One by one, they take a candle from the hall table to light their way. We follow the eldest daughter as she makes her solitary journey up the grand, shadowed staircase. Her single candle creates a small, moving bubble of golden light, pushing back the immense darkness of the sleeping house. The portraits of her ancestors on the wall are dark, ghostly shapes, their faces lost in the gloom. Her soft footsteps are absorbed by the thick carpet runner, and the only sound is the gentle creak of an old stair tread under her weight. The house is profoundly silent now, a great, sleeping creature holding its breath. She reaches her own room and steps inside, closing the door behind her. The sound of the latch clicking into place is a soft, final sound. Her day, with its quiet duties, its rich inner life, and its gentle, mysterious evening, is complete. She places her candle on the bedside table and sits on the edge of her bed, the world outside her window a silent, moonlit landscape. She is surrounded now by the deep, peaceful silence of a house at rest. The flirtation with the spirit world, the intellectual fun of the parlor game, have all dissolved into this final, simple state of being. She has returned to her own quiet sanctuary, her mind filled with the stories, the whispers, and the flickering candlelight of the evening. The chapter of her day has ended, and she is now ready to give herself over to the great, silent mystery of sleep. And so, our journey comes to a close. The house is now completely still, a great, sleeping giant under the soft, silver light of the moon. The fires have been banked, the last candle has been snuffed out, and the only sound is the steady, quiet ticking of the clock in the great hall, measuring out the silent hours of the night. It is time for us to leave this world behind and return to our own. Tonight, you have walked through the past. You've wandered the rooms of a world built on elegance and order. You have stood in the grand, quiet parlor. You have felt the warmth of the nursery fire, and you have lingered in the masculine stillness of the library, with its scent of old leather and paper. You felt the story through its textures. You have touched the cool, smooth silk of a lady's gown, felt the unyielding pressure of her corset, and heard the soft, constant rustle of her petticoats. You have felt the weight of a heavy silver spoon in your hand, the scratch of a quill on thick paper, and the satisfying crunch of gravel on a garden path. And you have heard the secrets. You have listened to the whispered conversations over teacups, the gentle hum of a lullaby in the nursery, the distant chime of a village bell, and the soft, turning pages of a newspaper that brought the great, wide world into a quiet, protected home. You have seen a world of immense beauty and profound restriction, of great confidence and deep, hidden anxieties. But now, the house is silent. The day is done. The stories are told, and the people who live them have retreated into the gentle darkness. Their world is safe now, held forever in the quiet embrace of time. You've wandered the rooms, touched the silk, and heard the secrets. Now rest, knowing the past holds its stories. Safe. Good night, dear dreamer of time.